video, we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting large numbers. Why this is important for the GED is because that first section on the GED has several questions where you're not allowed to use a calculator. So we have to make sure that we know how to add and subtract without our calculators, just in case that's something we're required to know on the test. And then once we know it, it makes it easier to do other problems, even with our calculator, and it can kind of speed it up. With the GED, time is kind of something you want to be aware of. So these things that kind of become second nature that you don't have to think about make it easier and cost you less time on the test. So I've had in these notes, I've added the steps for how we're going to organize these addition and subtraction problems. So we're going to look at the addition first. We have 352 plus 781. So our first step is to line up the numbers in the same place value with the bigger number on top. What this means is bigger numbers in terms of place value. If they both have 3 place values, like this first question, it doesn't matter which one's on top. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to have 352. Keep that one on top, and then we're going to have 781 on the bottom. I'm lining up my 1's place value, my 10's place value, my 100's place value. So once I've done that, I can add down in those place values. Again, this is why it's important to review those place values so we know how it plays into more complex math problems. So we're going to add down. 2 plus 1 gives us 3. 5 plus 8 gives us 13, which comes to our last step. If you have a number that's bigger than 9, it's bigger than just that place value, we put the last number, so we go 13. We carry that 1 over because that 1 belongs in the next place value. So we need to make sure it goes to the next place value. So we have 3 plus 7, which is 10, but we also have this 1 that we carried over. So we have 10 plus this other 1 gives us 11. So our answer would be 1,133. Let's look at one more before I give you one to try on your own. So our next question says 4,354 plus 1,961. Both of these have 4 place values, so whichever one goes on top is fine because they will all line up. So we have 4,358 plus 1,961. So we set it up. 1's, 10's, 100's, 1,000's, they all line up. So what we can do now is add down. 8 plus 1 gives us 9. 7 plus 6 gives us 11. So we write 11. We carry that 1 because that 1 belongs in the next place value. 9 plus 3 gives us 12. Plus another 1 gives us 13. If you need to use your fingers to add, that's fine. Whatever you need to do to get the right answer is totally fine. If you need to sit there and say, okay, 1, 2, 3 plus 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, that's fine. Whatever you need to do to get the right answer. All right, so we carried that 1 over again. So we have 4 plus 1. 4 plus 1 gives us 5. Plus that other 1, 6. So then we have 6,319. All right, there's one more question in that addition section. I want you to go ahead, try it on your own using those steps, and then we'll go ahead and review it. right, I hope you had a chance to go ahead and do that. If you didn't get enough time, feel free to pause it, complete what you were doing before we go over this. All right, so the next one says 952 plus 2,382. So we have 952 and then 2,382. The 2,382 has 4 place values, whereas 952 has 3. So I want that bigger number to go on top just because it's a little easier to work with. Plus 952. So next step, add down. 2 plus 2 gives us 4. 8 plus 5 gives us 13. Carry my 1 because that 1 goes in the next place value. And then we have 3 plus 9 is 12. Plus 1, 13. Carry the 1. 1. So we just have this 2. There's nothing in this place value. So we have 2 plus that 1 that we carried. 3,334. All right, so then we're going to go ahead. We're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about subtraction. So subtraction is similar to addition in this setup. Now, an important thing to know now, and it's going to be repeated, especially when we get into some of the algebra stuff, is addition and subtraction are the opposite of each other, right? With addition, we're adding numbers. We want more numbers. If I have 5 eggs and 5 eggs, and I'm adding them together, I have 10 eggs. If I'm subtracting, I have 10 eggs, and I'm cooking 3 of them, and then I'll have 7 left over. We are taking away. So they are the opposite. One's adding together, one's taking away. And that's going to be important when we get more into the algebra, but it's just something to keep in mind right now. So with subtraction, let's look at our first one. 895 minus 340. So our first step says to line them up with the same place value with the number listed first on top. That's important. So if I have 895 minus 340. All right, so let's look at this. Our next step is subtract down. So we have 5 minus 0. Well, 5 minus 0 just gives us 5. 9 minus 4. That gives us 5. And then 8 minus 3 gives us another 5. So our answer is going to be 555. So let's look at one that's a little more difficult. So what happens when this number appears smaller than this number right here? So let's look at a problem that kind of gives us that. 1,071 minus 641. So then we're going to continue to subtract down. 1 minus 1 gives us 0. 7 minus 4 will give us 3. And again, if you have to sit there on your fingers and say 7 minus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm left with 3, that's fine. Whatever gets you to the right answer is going to be the way that works for you. All right, here we have 0 minus 6. Well, we don't have that bigger number on top. 0 minus 6, how do we do that? What we do is we borrow from the next place value. So we take this away, and we're left with 0 over here. We're going to add a 1. Now we have 10. 10 minus 6 is a little bit easier. 10 minus 6, 10 minus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm left with 4. And then we have nothing left in this thousands place value. So we're left with 430. All right, now that we've kind of gotten into this, I want you to go ahead and try that third example problem on your own, and then we'll come back together and review it. right, so hopefully you had a little bit of time to try this on your own. If you don't, again, pause. Make sure you're getting that practice in by yourself because that's how you're going to solidify this in your head and get better as we start getting into more and more complex issues and problems. So I went ahead and I set this one up already. So we have 4,321 minus 495. So let's go ahead and start subtracting down. 1 minus 5. Well, 1's smaller than 5, so let's go ahead and borrow from the next place value. So instead of 2, this becomes 1. So now we have 11 minus 5. 11 minus 5 will give us 6. Now we're left with 1 minus 9. Again, 1 is smaller than 9, so let's borrow from our 3. So the 3 becomes 2, and I'm going to put a 1 right here. 11 minus 9 will give us 2. 2 minus 4. Again, we have an issue where we need to borrow. So I'm going to subtract from here. So that's 3. So now we have 12 minus 4, which will give us 8. Then we look at our last place value. We can even put a 0 here if that kind of helps your brain line up those place values. So we have 3 minus 0 will give us a 3. So we have 3,826. All right, so go ahead, try those practice problems on your own. Practice, 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 and we'll move on to the next lesson.